All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're exploring how America's absolute wildest, most untamed environments have forged some seriously soulful, deeply resourceful culinary traditions. We're looking at two very distinct, stunningly beautiful, but frankly incredibly hostile environments, and dissecting exactly how the land itself writes the menu.
So, what actually happens when a Michelin-starred chef steps right into America's wildest pantries? Well, to figure this out, we're going to follow Gordon Ramsay as he totally trades in his pristine, highly controlled kitchens for the sinking swamps of Louisiana and the treacherous rapids of North Carolina's Smoky Mountains. The goal here? To understand the true roots of regional American food, right at the source, where nature absolutely dictates everything on the plate.
Section 1. Surviving the Louisiana Bayou. Our journey starts down at the end of the world, in South Louisiana. It's this wildly unpredictable wetland where survival literally means eating some of the strangest, yet most flavorful creatures on Earth.
And the sheer scale of the environmental challenge here? It's staggering. This lush, gorgeous environment is in a literal race against the water. To put this into perspective, the region is losing a football field of land every single day to erosion and massive storms. That makes the traditional subsistence lifestyle so much harder with each passing year. The locals are, quite literally, racing the clock.
But at the very heart of dealing with whatever that swamp throws at you is the roux. If you don't know, a roux is this dark, smoking, almost fudge-colored mixture of flour and animal fat, and it requires immense patience to perfect. It's the absolute soul of a good Southern gumbo. Honestly, mastering it means you truly understand the slow rhythm and the patience of the bayou itself.
So to fight back against that rapid land erosion we just talked about, locals are actively targeting the culprits. And the culprits are these invasive 20-pound swamp rats called nutria. Yeah, 20-pound rats. They were brought over from South America in the 1800s for the fur trade, and now millions of them are just running wild, completely destroying the fragile marsh grass. The state actually offers a $6 bounty per tail to incentivize hunting them. And amazingly, locals have rebranded the meat as ragondin to make it a bit more approachable, turning them into incredibly lean, rabbit-like stews.
I love this quote from a local hunter named Walter. Well, nothing's more romantic than telling her you're eating nutria. And, despite the locals joking around about it, Gordon was genuinely shocked by how delicious it tasted when stewed by a hunter's mom. It has virtually no fat and eats just like a tender rabbit, but actually, it is worth noting that he ultimately kept it off his final menu. Serving rat in a high-end kitchen? Yeah, that's a tough sell, even for Gordon Ramsay.
Now here's another deeply fascinating adaptation in the bayou: Viet Cajun cuisine. Following the Vietnam War, Vietnamese refugees moved into the area and boldly took on the grueling 900 trap-a-day crawfish trade, and they totally elevated the local flavor profile. They started dumping these massive amounts of garlic, butter, and heavy Vietnamese chili seasonings right into the traditional boil. They even taught outsiders how to literally suck that violently spiced meat and fat straight out of the crawfish heads. It's just a brilliant, beautiful collision of two distinct cultures surviving off the exact same water.
To build his ultimate swamp pantry, Gordon had to get his hands dirty. I mean, braving thigh-deep mud and literally swimming with alligators to forage native ingredients with a local guide. He learned to chop down aggressively spiky bull thistle, which the locals affectionately call Cajun celery. He gathered raw oyster cluster mushrooms right off cypress trees that bizarrely taste like peppery apricot. Oh, and the craziest part? He went out in the pitch black to hand-catch giant hibernating bullfrogs just by blinding them with a flashlight. Now that is true boots-on-the-ground foraging.
All of this intense prep culminated in the Bayou Feast Showdown. Gordon faced off against award-winning local chef Eric Cook to feed a whole group of volunteer first responders. Chef Cook made a wild boar and venison gumbo with BBQ shrimp, while Gordon went with a chicken and dewey gumbo, frog leg cassoulet, and that amazing Viet Cajun crawfish. But here's the crucial point. Gordon secretly swapped their gumbos at the community feast just to test the locals. And shockingly, the first responders tasted Gordon's dark, smoky roux and thought it was their own local chef's dish. They said it tasted just like their mama's cooking. He successfully earned their respect and, for sure, captured the true soul of the bayou.
Moving right along to Section 2, Scaling the Smoky Mountains. We're talking about North Carolina's Great Smoky Mountains, one of the oldest and absolute most biodiverse wildernesses on Earth. And man, the terrain immediately humbles Gordon with its brutal, slippery, freezing waterfall rappel that honestly looked like taking a cold, wet punch to the face over and over again.
Once he makes it down, Gordon meets his match, local award-winning chef William Disson, and they agree to an incredibly high-stakes wager. If Gordon can perfectly capture the Appalachian soul in his cooking, he gets to keep the rugged, muddy 4x4 truck he borrowed. But if William wins, Gordon has to fly William's entire family first class to London for a pristine, all-expenses-paid 10-course meal at Ramsay's own restaurant. It's a fantastic clash of two totally different culinary worlds.
So, to win this massive bet, Gordon obviously needed local protein. Navigating treacherous Class 3 rapids that nearly capsized him, and doing it using these bizarre plastic hand paddles, Gordon really learned the sheer ingenuity of Appalachian locals. A local guide showed him how to source crayfish using DIY traps that cost exactly $6 to make. I'm talking empty dollar store Gatorade jugs and old cheese ball containers, all tied together and baited with cheap leftover bacon. It is the perfect example of mountain resourcefulness, absolute zero waste and extreme efficiency.
But foraging up here, it's a seriously high-stakes game. For instance, confusing a beautiful, bright white destroying angel mushroom for a prized hen of the woods could literally kill your dinner guests. No joke. But when you do find the real deal, the hen of the woods, it looks almost like a delicate coral sculpture and tastes like absolute heaven. It's the ultimate foraging prize.
Then, Gordon taps into the legendary moonshine capital of the world, uncovering this wild 200-year-old family distilling process. They use a rusty 1906 hand-crank machine to shell-dried corn kernels. And then, get this, they use a 1918 mill powered entirely by the engine of a running tractor to grind it. Then they cook the mash in hidden deep-wood stills using fresh creek water. Historically, they'd transport this mash in high-speed hot rods to outrun the feds. And crazy enough, that specific tradition literally gave birth to modern NASCAR. How cool is that?
Now, North Carolina is a massive pork producer, and the locals honor a strict zero-waste ethos. Gordon sources meat from these 600-pound, free-roaming, apple-eating hogs to discover something called liver mush. Yeah, liver mush. It is a very bizarre-sounding Appalachian breakfast staple made by boiling pork shoulder and liver in fortified stock and binding it all together with cornmeal. It perfectly honors the core necessity of mountain survival, which is using absolutely everything the land provides.
But check out Gordon's reaction. He said, "Liver mush doesn't sound the most appetizing on a menu, but let me tell you, honestly, delicious. It takes me back to my Commis chef days in Paris." He was absolutely floored by how this humble, super dense ingredient elevated into something truly magical. When pan-seared, he said it tasted like a rich, rustic French pâté. It just goes to show you, definitely don't judge a mountain breakfast meat by its name.
Beyond just resourcefulness, this mountain pantry is built on deep indigenous food science. The native Cherokee historically shelled their local corn and mixed it with water and traditional hickory ash. Why? Well, the lye in the ash causes a chemical reaction that strips away the tough outer coat of the corn, turning it into hominy. But more importantly, this reaction unlocks essential amino acids to prevent vitamin deficiencies. It is just brilliant, ancient food science taking place right out there in the forest. All right, which brings us to the Smoky Mountain Feast Showdown. The final cook pitted Gordon's historically grounded ingredients. We're talking a liver mush scone, hen of the woods mushrooms, that Cherokee hominy, and moonshine-laced crawfish against William's local mastery. And Chef William did not play around. He made stuffed rainbow trout, griddle cakes, and even did a bourbon luge down a 25-month aged ham. The whole feast really proved that true culinary brilliance out here relies entirely on respecting the land and tapping into generations of hyper-local knowledge.
So, between the resilient Cajuns of the sinking bayou and the incredibly resourceful Highlanders of the ancient Smokies, what does regional food actually tell us about the American spirit? Ultimately, what you should take away from this explainer is that America's wildest environments demand immense respect, and the communities that brave them have forged culinary traditions filled with absolute genius.